Schadenfreude is a German word that describes pleasure derived from someone else's misfortune. It might be a brutal emotion, but tonight I guarantee you'll enjoy watching the misery of the men you're about to meet. They're a bunch of criminal scammers who've been tricking ordinary Australians out of millions of hard-earned dollars. But no more. These lowlifes are busted, red-handed, arrested and imprisoned. It's an important victory for the good guys. This should make all Australians very happy. Professional conmen undone by their own arrogance and greed.
Gentlemen, scamming a few Aussies, huh?
For months, this less than impressive office in Manila, in the Philippines, has been the headquarters for a sophisticated scam.
Well, you know what's going on, mate, because you're making illegal money and plenty of it here.
Where fraudsters have cold called thousands of unsuspecting Aussies.
What is your position here?
I'm just a trainee.
And tricked them into handing over their life savings for fake shares in real companies. But today, the game's up.
The fraudsters that are running these operations are professional confidence tricksters.
They're good liars, aren't they?
Very good liars. They sell the dream, and a lot of Australians are looking for the dream.
Why are you shaking your head?
I don't, we said shares. I don't sell shares. What's shares? No idea what you're talking about.
But you're caught in the act, you're caught in the act,
Yes.
and you still can't face up and say sorry.
I'm so sorry for you, Burrow.
Do any of you blokes have any shame?
These fast-talking frauds have been brought down thanks to months of covert surveillance by Australian private investigator Ken Gamble.
This is transnational organised crime at the highest level. It's devastating to the victims. It's enormous in size. It involves hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And it's also funding and feeding other organised crime. So these are the booths where they work. These are their workstations. You can see all the scripts. They've got all their scripts.
Even though these expatriates from the US and UK are in Manila, they tell callers they're working for an investment firm in Australia and that they have a deal too good to refuse.
They'll cold call people and they will give them some very basic questions. Are you interested in investing? Would you mind if we sent you some information?
So it's like a traditional telephone sales operation.
It is exactly that. These people have been doing it a long time. They're very professional and they put a lot of pressure on the investor to make decisions quickly.
So do you think these are all Australian names or not?
They are. They're all Australians. These are all Australians. They're only targeting Australia.
This whiteboard shows the sad truth. The latest Australians who have been sold the dream and the hundreds of thousands of dollars they've scammed.
And as we go through the documents, we'll get in contact with them and let them know that they've been a victim of a scam.
Give them the bad news.
Give them the bad news.
It's not going to be pleasant.
No, it's not. Some of these people probably invested all the money they had into what is now just nothing but a scam.
Thousands of kilometres from the Philippines, in the New South Wales town of Griffith, Robert Coy is out on the morning milk run. At 69, he already hoped to be retired, but a cold call 2 years ago lured him into the scammer's trap. Now his superannuation is all but blown.
All up, if I can ask you directly, how much money have you paid to them?
I'd probably be getting up 300,000, 350,000 overall.
$350,000? That's an awful lot of money to lose.
Yeah.
Robert, that's a heck of a lot of milk.
It is a lot of milk.
So this is a sales invoice with obviously bogus name.
Yeah.
A large chunk of Robert's money was deposited into the ANZ account of Timber Hill Group here in Australia to buy shares.
$180,000 for these shares, Robert.
Yeah.
Geez, that's a lot of money in one hit.
Yeah, well, I thought an Australian company, that's what I wanted.
And $10,000 for that one.
Cunningly, the Timber Hill Group name was close enough to other legitimate companies using the name Timber Hill. But this one was a scam. For novice investors like Robert, their website looked impressive too. Its headquarters are supposed to be at this high-rise building in central Sydney.
Robert, the Timber Hill address that's on this fake letterhead, 65 York Street in Sydney. Did you ever think about going there?
No.
It's only an hour away in the aeroplane. You never thought about visiting the head office?
No.
Sadly, a simple check would have revealed the company does not exist at this address.
Do you feel sorry for the victims?
I do feel sorry for them because, you know, a lot of them are hardworking. They're family people, family men mostly. Once they believe it's real, there's no turning back, really.
Do they do that because of stupidity, or is it greed pushing them along?
There is a combination of greed. Some people, yes, they want to try and make an easy buck. There's no doubt about it. On the other hand, there are people that are simply trying to do the right thing and make money and build a future for their family.
It's almost impossible to put an exact figure on the number of victims being caught up in these scams. But what we do know is the rate at which life savings are being conned is phenomenal. In just the first 3 weeks of this year, no less than $15 million has been sent by Aussies living in country towns just like this one to crime gangs and con men in the Philippines. Single and newly retired, 70-year-old Ken Briggs was the perfect target when the scammers called him out of the blue in his man shed.
Well, I got a phone call from this bloke and he went on with this big spiel and everything, and I started writing a few things down. I thought, well, I'll check these out.
You had enough tucked away that you thought, well, I can use that and maybe make some money.
Yeah.
The former Queensland bus driver wanted to make a better return on his savings than keeping it in the bank.
So what's the difference? Why did this outfit get you?
Well, I think it was just the spiel they put in the first instance, and that you're actually talking to somebody and they can give you some facts as you believe that they're facts. I think really what sucked me in there.
So it was the confidence part.
Yeah.
It's one thing to build a person's confidence, but this scam is all about walking a person right down to the bank. In less than 4 weeks, Ken deposited $60,000 for fake shares into 2 ANZ bank accounts.
You wouldn't know how much they've actually made, because a lot of people will never ever admit to it that they've been taken by these people.
Well, you can understand that, can't you?
Absolutely.
They must be very good at making you feel as though you're almost a friend.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think I've even paid that much for a car in my life. So I'm usually pretty frugal with my money, so to get sucked in like that, I just can't believe it.
To show you exactly how they sell the scam, I need to do a bit of scamming myself. It's just days before the Manila office is going to be raided by Ken Gamble and the police. So I phone that so-called office of Timber Hill Group, pretending to be a prospective customer.
Is that Timber Hill?
Yes, it is. My name is John Anderson. How can I help you?
He doesn't know it, but John Anderson has been under surveillance for months. His real name is Paul Carney, an expat from the United States.
I am a managing advisor. I deal right now with 99 clients in 9 countries with over $190 million, okay?
The key to his confidence trick is convincing callers their money is safely invested in Australia.
See, if you're buying with us, you pay us here. It doesn't go anywhere around the globe.
Okay, so my money effectively would stay here in Australia.
Right, safe and sound right down the street.
Anderson plays to a script. He offers me a deal on the same fake shares in a real company, purchased by Robert Coy and Ken Briggs.
Blu-ray is a very active stock. We're very big on it, and it's a major buy.
If I was to put in somewhere between 20 to 50,000, I mean, how long before I see some sort of decent return? Are you talking 6 months, 12 months?
Maybe 90 to 120 days for some above-average returns.
Well, that's pretty impressive. 90 to 120 days. That's That's impressive.
Yeah, well, we have to be.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and fill in that online application, and I very much look forward to meeting you, John, and dealing with you.
Coming up, Busted, the faces behind the fraud.
Here's our email, 20 to 50K.
Lies, damn lies.
Have you spoken to Australian investors?
No.
No.
And no apologies.
Okay, so that's them right there.
This one's new guy.
They fall for these scams because they're stupid.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
We know that as soon as the clock hits 3, they come straight out of the building, right?
Aussie investigator Ken Gamble's plan to bust the scammers is in its final days.
They're on the 24th floor. They don't have any signing on the office, it's just a doorway.
For weeks, he and his team have been tracking the daily movements of the scammers, where they live, what time they arrive for work, and when they get paid.
Okay, so that's them right there. That new guy is
new guy, yeah.
Is a new African guy.
Hundreds of Australians would have received calls from these men today.
They absolutely know that it's a scam. They're all in on it together, all the workers. They know what they're doing is illegal. They know that they're conning people.
The case got its break when Ken was contacted by an insider willing to rat on his colleagues.
Whistleblowers in the Philippines are treading in very dangerous territory when they start ratting on the people that they're working with. And I'm aware of a number of cases where whistleblowers have been either killed or seriously injured.
Peter, as we'll call him, is prepared to take the risk and tell Australians why he did it.
You get your first sale, you see the money, you get excited. So it just drives you more to keep doing it and doing it. You get a guy on the phone and you're talking to him and you're pitching him and, he's telling you, no. I'm not convinced. And you finally end up convincing him and instead of him giving you $30,000, he's like, okay, well, here's $200,000.
Was there a feeling in the office about Aussies?
Yeah, there was a few talks about it. We have a choice, we can either contact Australians, New Zealanders, Europeans, and everyone just voted, let's just stay in Australia. That's where we have the most success.
Because it's easy work.
Correct. And even though they've taken a loss, again, the greed is what attracts them. They hear it's an opportunity to hopefully win back what they lost and they jump on it.
Peter says he was given the names and numbers of 200 Australians to call every day.
Day to day, how much business did you see going through the place?
Probably close to maybe $250,000 a day.
$250,000?
Yes.
But with your commission at this stage, how much were you making a week, roughly?
Anywhere from, 3,000 USD up to 11,000 USD a week.
$11,000 a week?
Yes.
Well, that's a very big incentive to keep your mouth shut.
It is.
A guilty conscience doesn't exactly fit the profile of a con man, but Peter tells us he's now given up scamming.
So you made the mistake of feeling sorry for the victims?
Correct. I guess just too many stories, hearing customers complain to you, they lost their life savings, their family's gone, they lost their house, they're homeless now just because of someone just like me.
We know that these people are responsible for defrauding dozens and dozens of Australians with these fake shares.
In a secret location in central Manila, Ken is briefing his team on a plan to scam the scammers.
This guy here, Alan Sterling, he's the boss. He's been under investigation for some months now. This is his son, Nathan, who's also working in the operations. We expect to find scripts, banking information, most importantly, a full list of the victims in Australia, the people that are actually being defrauded.
Inside this high-rise building, the scammers are just starting work when these officers burst in. It's a day to forget for these crooks, including John Anderson.
That's him. That's John Anderson.
That's him.
Yeah.
The smooth-talking American I spoke to a few days earlier.
Look at this. Here's our email. Look at this. 20 to 50K. Just made notes.
It's pretty compelling evidence.
They're completely brazen, aren't they? What are you holding your hand over your face for, buddy?
because I don't want to be on the camera.
Really?
Yes.
A bit late for that.
It hasn't sunk in yet, but these men will spend tonight in a crowded jail cell.
Well, you blokes have been happy to rip off hundreds of Australians. You're not looking particularly happy this morning.
They fall for these scams because they're stupid.
For a con man, John Anderson doesn't have much to say for himself.
So what's your real name?
None of your business. I don't have to talk to you.
Have you spoken to Australian investors?
No.
No?
No.
This is your desk, isn't it?
Whatever, man.
Whatever?
Whatever. Write it down. Whatever.
What do you reckon?
It's a typical reaction from people that are placed in this situation. They know they've been caught red-handed.
Well, it's lovely to meet you, Mr. Anderson.
Keep your hands off me.
Lovely to meet you. Have a great time in your incarceration.
Back in Australia, the news of a police raid is bittersweet for victims like Ken Briggs. It's confirmation he's been duped and probably lost his entire savings.
Is it a sense of disappointment in yourself, or is it just sheer frustration?
Yeah, well, I think there is a really big sense of disappointment in myself because I just can't understand that I couldn't see through it in the first place.
What makes it even harder to swallow is the revelation that Australian banks were unwittingly used to scam the money.
You're paying into an account here in Australia, you think, well, the money's going into an Australian company.
And being one of the big four banks,
yeah,
that gave you confidence as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we tracked down the ANZ account holders who made it all possible. 2 Australians living in Melbourne. It turns out the sole director of Timber Hill Group is this man, 28-year-old Miroslav Lunt. His day job is concreting industrial sites like this one.
Miroslav.
When we caught up with him to ask him about his ANZ account,
Miroslav Lunt,
that allowed crime gangs in the Philippines to launder money.
You got a minute for us, Miroslav?
He wasn't keen to chat.
Miroslav, why are you running?
The second ANZ account being promoted by the scammers in the Philippines belongs to this man, 47-year-old Joseph Coulier, the managing director of Property Confidential Group. Mr. Coulier was not at home when we visited in suburban Aberfeldy, but both men have since denied knowledge of a scam.
Most of the victims will never see their money again, even with law enforcement action, even putting these fraudsters in prison. The money's gone.
Ken Gamble is doing all he can to recover the money for Australian victims. It's a job he wishes had the attention of the Australian government.
It's not something the government has taken much of an interest in. This is large-scale organised crime, and the government has to put financial crime up there with drug trafficking, murder for hire, all of the traditional mafia-related crimes that we see out there. They have to put this up as a very high priority, or in due course we're going to see the profits being used to fund other very serious activity, including terrorism.
Hello, I'm Liam Bartlett. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.